The day the aliens contacted Earth began like any other at NASA's Deep Space Communications Center. Dr. Susan Collins sipped her coffee, reviewed signal data, and prepared for another routine shift. At 42, with streaks of gray in her brown hair, Susan had spent 20 years listening to the stars. She never truly expected an answer, until today. The signal came at 3:17 p.m. Eastern Time. It wasn't the random noise of a pulsar or the steady beat of a quasar. This was a pattern. Mathematical sequences that could only be artificial. "John, are you seeing this?" Susan called to her colleague, Dr. John Peters. Her voice remained steady, but her hands shook as she typed commands to verify the signal wasn't Earth-based interference. John hurried over, his eyes widening as he watched the pattern repeat. That's not one of ours." Within an hour, the center director had been notified. By evening, the president knew. Within 3 days, the world knew. We are not alone. The initial message was simple: mathematical sequences followed by basic elements from the periodic table, then more complex formulas, universal concepts that proved intelligence. The signal originated from a vessel approaching our solar system. Susan found herself suddenly thrust into the center of humanity's most important moment. The government assembled a first contact team, and as the scientist who discovered the signal, she was the natural choice to lead the scientific division. "Dr. Collins, the Joint Chiefs have assigned Major Alan Hayes as your military liaison," the NASA director told her a week after the discovery. Major Hayes stood tall in his Air Force uniform, with short-cropped blonde hair and serious blue eyes. At 38, he had served in 3 conflicts and specialized in communication with unknown entities, though he had expected those entities to be human terrorists, not aliens. "Major Hayes," Susan said, extending her hand. "I hope we won't need military expertise for this meeting." Hayes shook her hand firmly. "So do I, Doctor. But hope isn't a strategy." They had 6 weeks to prepare before the alien ship would reach Earth orbit. 6 weeks of frantic preparation, building a first contact protocol from theoretical papers and science fiction stories. The world changed during those weeks. Stock markets fluctuated wildly. Religious leaders issued statements ranging from welcoming to apocalyptic. But mostly, people waited and wondered. As the ship approached, it transmitted more data, images of their species, cultural information, and finally, a name: the Vosarians. They called themselves representatives of something translated as the Galactic Concord, a community of spacefaring civilizations. The day the Vosarian ship entered Earth orbit, Susan stood with Major Hayes at the newly constructed first contact facility in the Nevada desert. "Nervous?" Hayes asked. Susan nodded. "Wouldn't you be? Everything we know about life, about our place in the universe, changes today." "I'm more concerned about their intentions," Hayes said quietly. "They've shared some impressive technology in those data packets, very generous for a first meeting." Susan had wondered about that too. The Vosarians had included schematics for medical devices, efficient solar collectors, and water purification systems. Gifts, they said, to demonstrate their peaceful intentions. The Vosarian shuttle landed precisely at noon. Its silver hull gleamed in the desert sun as a door irised open on its side. Susan held her breath as the first alien set foot on Earth. The Vosarian stood 7 feet tall, with 4 arms and iridescent blue-green skin that seemed to shimmer. Its face featured 3 large black eyes arranged in a triangle and a small mouth without lips. It wore something like a robe, embedded with glowing patterns. "I am Krilltax," the alien said through a translation device. Its voice sounded musical, with odd pauses between words. "Ambassador of the Vosarian Collective and the Galactic Concord, we greet Earth with peace and friendship." Susan stepped forward. "I am Dr. Susan Collins. This is Major Alan Hayes. On behalf of the people of Earth, we welcome you." 2 more Vosarians emerged from the ship. One carried scientific equipment. The other, slightly smaller with purple-tinted skin, watched the humans with an intensity that made Hayes shift his stance. My scientific officer, Lendar, Kriltax indicated the first alien, and my diplomatic aide, Zephyra, he added, gesturing to the purple-tinted one. The meeting lasted 3 hours. They exchanged formal greetings, cultural information, and discussed the basic structure of the galactic Concord, apparently a loose federation of 27 spacefaring species who shared knowledge, resources, and peaceful exploration. We have watched your world for some time, Kriltax explained. Your rapid technological development is impressive. Few species advance from primitive flight to space exploration in a single century. Is that unusual? Susan asked. Zephyra spoke. For the first time, her voice higher than Kriltax's. Very. Most species develop more gradually. Something in her tone made Hayes narrow his eyes, but the moment passed as Kriltax continued describing the wonders of the Concord. In the weeks that followed, more Vosarians arrived. A small compound was built near the first contact facility. Regular meetings established diplomatic protocols and began the slow process of technological exchange. Susan found herself spending most days with Kriltax, who seemed genuinely fascinated by human culture and history. His enthusiasm reminded her of her own excitement when discovering something new. Your art is particularly interesting, Kriltax told her one day, examining images of the Sistine Chapel. You create beauty for its own sake, not just function. Don't Vosarians make art? Susan asked. Yes, but differently. We create through mathematical patterns and chemical reactions. The concept of representing something else is unusual to us. Major Hayes spent his time with the security detail and observing the Vosarians' activities. He particularly watched Zephyra, who often seemed to be studying human reactions rather than participating in discussions. One evening, 3 months after first contact, Hayes visited Susan in her office. Have you noticed anything odd about the technology they're sharing? He asked without preamble. Susan looked up from her computer. Odd how? It's all safe. Medical technology, environmental systems, communication devices, nothing that could be used for defense or that would significantly advance our space capabilities. Susan frowned. They're being cautious. Wouldn't we do the same? Maybe. Hayes sat down across from her. But I've been comparing notes with Dr. Rivera from MIT. The physics principles in some of these devices don't match others, like they're deliberately holding back key concepts. That's a serious accusation, Alan. Before Hayes could respond, his secure phone buzzed. He answered, listened briefly, then stood up. We need to go to the communications center. Now. When they arrived, a team of NSA analysts were reviewing a transmission intercepted from the Vosarian compound. It's encrypted, the lead analyst explained, but it's not using the standard protocols the Vosarians shared with us. This was sent by Zephyra to an unknown recipient outside our solar system. Over the next few hours, the team managed to partially decrypt the message. What they found disturbed everyone in the room. The humans show remarkable adaptability and learning capacity, Zephyra had written. Their military structure and history of conflict indicate potential for rapid weapons development. While Ambassador Kriltax favors full disclosure and regular admission protocols, I recommend caution. Their technological progression rate exceeds safety parameters by 43%. The Shivari protocol may be necessary if further evaluation confirms these trends. Susan stared at the screen, then at Hayes. What's the Shivari protocol? I don't know, Hayes said grimly, but I think we need to ask our friend Kriltax. When confronted the next day in a private meeting, Kriltax's 3 eyes widened in what appeared to be genuine shock. Zephyra sent this? He examined the partial transcript. This is troubling. I must explain something about our Concord. Not all members view emerging species the same way. Emerging species, is that what we are to you? Susan asked. Kriltax's skin darkened slightly. Yes, species newly capable of interstellar communication. Most are welcomed and guided gradually into the wider community. But there are factions who view certain species, especially those who develop quickly or show particular aptitude for military technology, as potential threats rather than equals. And the Shivari Protocol? Hayes pressed. Kriltax hesitated. I am not familiar with this term specifically, but there are procedures for species deemed too dangerous to join the conquered. I had no knowledge of such evaluations being conducted. Here. Do you believe us to be dangerous, Ambassador? Susan asked quietly. All species capable of reaching the stars have capacity for both creation and destruction, Kriltax replied carefully. But I believe humans have shown remarkable restraint given your capabilities. You could have destroyed yourselves many times over, yet you chose to survive, to improve. I find that hopeful. As they left the meeting, Hayes walked silently beside Susan for several minutes before speaking. Do you believe him? Susan considered the question. Yes, I think I do, but I don't think he's telling us everything. Agreed. Hayes looked up at the stars beginning to appear in the evening sky. And I think we need to find out what this Shivari protocol is before it's too late. 6 months passed since the Vosarians first landed on Earth. The world had changed in ways both subtle and profound. New medical devices from the aliens had cured several previously fatal diseases. Their clean energy technology reduced pollution in major cities. Global tensions eased as nations united around the common goal of preparing humanity for its place among the stars. Susan Collins now headed the Interspecies Technology Exchange Program, working directly with Kriltax to integrate Vosarian science with human knowledge. They had become something like friends, spending hours discussing the differences between their cultures. Your species values individuality so strongly, Kriltax said one afternoon as they walked through the expanded compound, now called the Galactic Embassy. Vosarians see themselves first as part of a collective. Susan nodded. Yet you seem to understand our perspective well. I have studied many species. It is why they chose me as first ambassador. His skin rippled in what Susan had learned was a sign of amusement. Though not all my people agree with my methods. You mean Zephyra? Susan said quietly. Kriltax's 3 eyes blinked in sequence. My aide has a more traditional view of how emerging species should be guided. After their discovery of Zephyra's secret message months ago, Kriltax had assured them he would handle the situation. Zephyra remained at the embassy but was given fewer responsibilities. Susan wasn't sure if this was punishment or just for show. Major Hayes, now promoted to colonel, maintained his cautious approach. He expanded Earth's security protocols and insisted on having humans present at all technology transfers. Susan sometimes found his paranoia frustrating, but she couldn't deny he had good instincts. That evening, Susan met with Hayes and Commander Olivia Martinez in a secure room beneath the embassy. Martinez, a Navy intelligence officer with sharp eyes and a sharper mind, had been assigned to analyze the alien technology 3 months ago. I've completed the comparative analysis you requested, Martinez said, spreading diagrams across the table. She was younger than Susan and Hayes, only 32. But her reputation for spotting patterns others missed had earned her this position. What did you find? Hayes asked. Martinez pointed to several schematics. The medical technology uses quantum principles that contradict the physics in their communication devices. And this energy converter? She tapped another diagram. It should be far more efficient based on the other technology they've shown us. Susan frowned. You're saying the technology is deliberately limited? Or deliberately inconsistent, Martinez replied. Like they're giving us pieces from different puzzles so we can't see the whole picture. Hayes leaned forward. Could this be related to the Shivari protocol? Possibly. Martinez pulled out another document. I've been researching that term through our conversations with various Vosarians. Most claim not to know it, but their biometric responses show stress when it's mentioned. Susan felt her stomach tighten. Have you told anyone else about this? Martinez shook her head. Just the 3 of us, as ordered. Good, Hayes said. We need more information before. An urgent knock interrupted him. A security officer entered, looking tense. Commander Martinez, we've intercepted another encrypted transmission. It matches the pattern from 6 months ago. They rushed to the communications center where technicians had already begun decryption. This time their systems were better prepared to decode the Vosarian encryption. "It's from Zephyra again," the lead technician confirmed. "Sent to the same, unknown receiver." As the message translated on screen, Susan felt a chill run through her body. "Human adaptation to provided technology exceeds projected rates by 27%, the message read. "They have begun integrating principles in ways not anticipated. Of particular concern is their military application of medical scanning devices to improve targeting systems. The assessment team confirms my evaluation. This species demonstrates Class 4 predator characteristics. I formally request Shivari Protocol implementation before their delegation arrives at Central. Awaiting authorization." Hayes looked at Susan, his expression grim. "Delegation? What delegation?" "I don't know," Susan said. "This is the first I've heard of any delegation." Martinez was already checking recent diplomatic communications. "Here, scheduled for tomorrow's announcement, the Concord has officially invited Earth to send representatives to their central world. 12 humans will be selected for the first interstellar diplomatic mission. We need to speak with Kriltax immediately," Susan said. They found the ambassador in his private quarters, reviewing data on a holographic display that vanished as they entered. "Dr. Collins, Colonel Hayes, Commander Martinez," he greeted them. "This is unexpected." Hayes didn't waste time. "We intercepted another message from Zephyra. She's requesting something called the Shivari Protocol and mentioned a delegation to your central world." Kriltax's skin darkened to a deep blue, a sign of distress Susan had rarely seen. "Show me," he said quietly. After reading the translated message, Kriltax sank into a seat, his forearms folding inward in a protective gesture. "I feared this might happen," he said. "I should have been more vigilant." "Feared what exactly?" Susan demanded. "What is the Shivari Protocol and why does Zephyra want to use it on us?" "The Shivari Protocol is..." Kriltax seemed to struggle for words. "It is a containment procedure for species deemed too dangerous to join the galactic community." "Containment?" Hayes's voice hardened. "What does that mean?" "There are factions within the Concord who believe that certain species, those who develop too quickly or show too much aptitude for warfare, pose an existential threat to galactic stability." Kriltax looked directly at Susan. "They call them predator species." "And humans qualify as predators?" Susan asked. "By their metrics, yes. You advanced from primitive flight to space travel in a single century. Your history shows constant conflict, yet remarkable innovation during wartime. Your biology allows you to survive in environments that would kill most species." Kriltax's voice lowered. "These are traits the Security Council finds concerning." "What does the protocol actually do?" Martinez pressed. Kriltax hesitated. "It varies by species. For some it means quarantine. No further contact allowed. For others, more direct intervention." "Such as?" Hayes demanded. "Controlled technological regression," Kriltax finally admitted. "Methods to return a species to a pre-space flight state without their knowledge." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "The technology you've been sharing," Susan said slowly. "It contains something to harm us, doesn't it?" "Not what I have personally shared," Kriltax insisted. "But Zephyra has been involved in many transfers. She could have embedded components." "And this delegation to your central world?" Hayes asked. "That is genuine," Kriltax said. "I fought for it, believing that if your leaders could address the Concord directly, they would see humanity's potential as allies, not threats." "Or it could be a trap," Martinez suggested. "Get our best people off-world before implementing this protocol." Kriltax's skin rippled with agitation. "I did not know of Zephyra's continued communication with the Security Council. She was supposed to be monitored." "Well, she wasn't monitored enough," Hayes said sharply. "We need to cancel this delegation immediately." "No," Susan said, surprising herself. "That would alert them that we know." "Dr. Collins is right," Kriltax said. "If you reject the invitation, the Security Council will know their plans have been discovered. They might implement more drastic measures." "So what do we do?" Martinez asked. Just walk into their trap? Susan looked at each of them in turn. We prepare. We go to this central world, but we're careful about who goes and what we bring. And we use the 3-month journey to learn everything we can about this Shivari protocol from Krilltax. You trust him? Hayes asked quietly. Susan studied the alien ambassador. Despite everything, she believed his distress was genuine. I trust that he has more to lose if his superiors discover he's been helping us, she said. Isn't that right, Ambassador? Krilltax's skin lightened slightly. Yes, I have violated numerous protocols by sharing this information. If discovered, I would face exile or worse. Then we have a common enemy, Hayes said. The question is, what do they have planned for Earth while we're gone? Susan felt a cold determination settle over her. We're going to find out, and we're going to stop it. Outside the embassy, the stars shone brightly in the night sky. Among them was the Vosarian ship in orbit, and beyond that, the vast unknown of a galactic civilization that might not welcome humanity after all. The next 3 months would determine whether Earth would join the stars or be forced back into the dark. The Vosarian ship hummed quietly as it traveled through space. Susan Collins stared out the viewing port at the endless stars streaking by. 2 months had passed since they left Earth orbit, and they still had 1 month remaining before reaching the conquered central world. The human delegation consisted of 12 people carefully selected for their skills and mental resilience. Susan led the scientific team. Colonel Hayes commanded the security detail, with Commander Martinez as his second. 5 other scientists and 3 diplomats completed the group. Susan turned as Krilltax entered the observation room. The Vosarian ambassador had been their steadfast ally since revealing the truth about the Shivari protocol. You should rest, Dr. Collins, Krilltax said. We have much work tomorrow. Susan smiled tiredly. I was just thinking about Earth. We've learned so much in these 2 months, but I worry it won't be enough. Their time aboard the ship had been productive. While officially preparing diplomatic presentations, they secretly worked with Krilltax to understand the true nature of the threat. Zephyra remained on board but was kept busy with official duties arranged by Krilltax. Have you decoded more of the protocol data? Susan asked. Krilltax's skin rippled with concern. Yes, the nanomachines, embedded in the technology we shared, are more sophisticated than I feared. He activated a small device that created a privacy field around them, technology he had secretly provided to prevent Vosarian monitoring. The nanomachines are designed to target electronic systems first, he explained. They will cause small failures that appear as normal malfunctions. Then they will spread to more critical systems. How quickly? Susan asked. Based on my calculations, the effects would become noticeable within 6 months of activation. Complete technological regression to pre-industrial levels would take approximately 3 years. Susan felt cold despite the ship's comfortable temperature. And the activation trigger? I believe it requires a direct signal from the Concord Security Council, Krilltax said. But I cannot be certain. Zephyra may have implemented additional triggers. In another section of the ship, Hayes and Martinez were conducting their own investigation. They had convinced the Vosarian crew to allow combat training exercises to maintain their readiness. In reality, they were mapping the ship and identifying potential escape routes. The shuttle bay has minimal security, Martinez reported as they exercised in the ship's gymnasium. 2 guards, standard rotation every 6 hours. Hayes nodded slightly as he stretched. Weapon storage? Locked with biometric controls. We'd need a Vosarian to access it. Krilltax might help if things go bad, Hayes said quietly. What about communications? Martinez lowered her voice. 3 separate systems, primary, emergency, and something they call Council Direct. That one's heavily secured. Probably how they'd send the activation signal for the protocol, Hayes said. Their planning continued throughout the journey. By the final week, they had contingencies for multiple scenarios. Susan and her team had even developed a potential countermeasure for the nanomachines, though testing it would have to wait until they returned to Earth. If they returned to Earth. The conquered central world came into view on the main display screen, a massive artificial structure rather than a planet. It resembled an enormous wheel rotating slowly in space with spokes connecting to a central hub. Lights of various colors covered its surface, indicating different sectors. The original structure was built over 2,000 years ago, Kriltax explained as they approached. It has been expanded many times as new species joined the conquered. It's beautiful, Susan said honestly. The Vosarian sector is in the outer ring, Kriltax continued. You will be welcomed there first, before meeting the full council tomorrow. The ship docked smoothly at one of the many ports extending from the wheel. The human delegation gathered their belongings and prepared to disembark. Susan noticed Hayes and Martinez subtly checking their hidden communication devices, small translators modified to function as emergency beacons. Remember, Susan said quietly to the group, we're here to learn and establish diplomatic relations. But stay alert and report anything unusual immediately. The Vosarian reception area was filled with flowing water features and plants with luminescent leaves. Several high-ranking officials greeted them with elaborate ceremonies that Susan recognized from Kriltax's cultural briefings. The atmosphere seemed genuinely welcoming. That evening, they were treated to a feast featuring foods compatible with human biology. Entertainment included Vosarian music, complex patterns of sounds that somehow conveyed emotions without melodies. Your species has adjusted well to space travel, one Vosarian official commented to Susan. Many first-time visitors experience significant distress. Humans are adaptable, Susan replied carefully. Yes, the official said. Remarkably so. Later that night, Susan couldn't sleep. She left her assigned quarters to find Kriltax. He was in a small study adjacent to the main reception hall examining data on multiple screens. Kriltax, is everything all right? She asked. The Vosarian quickly closed the displays. Dr. Collins, you should be resting before tomorrow's council meeting. I'm concerned about the reception we received, Susan said. It seemed too welcoming. Kriltax's skin darkened slightly. I have been reviewing council communications. There is unusual activity in the security division. Many encrypted messages. Do you think? A soft chime interrupted her. Kriltax checked a small device. The council has moved up the meeting. It is now scheduled for first light, not midday. That's only 4 hours from now, Susan said. Why the change? I do not know. This is highly irregular. His voice lowered. You should warn Colonel Hayes. Susan sent an alert through their secure communication system. Within minutes, Hayes and Martinez joined them in the study. We need to prepare for the worst, Hayes said, after hearing the news. I agree, Kriltax said. The sudden schedule change suggests they do not want you to have time for final preparations. What exactly should we expect at this meeting? Martinez asked. The full council includes representatives from all 27 member species, Kriltax explained. But the inner chamber is restricted to senior members only. That is where you will be received. Is there any way to get a message back to Earth if things go wrong? Susan asked. Kriltax hesitated. There is a communication relay I could access. It would take several days for the message to reach Earth, but it would bypass standard monitoring. Show me, Martinez said immediately. While Martinez worked with Kriltax on the emergency communication plan, Susan and Hayes returned to wake the rest of the delegation and brief them on the situation. 4 hours later, dressed in their formal uniforms, the human delegation was escorted to the council chamber, an imposing room with a circular arrangement of elevated seats surrounding a central platform. Various alien species filled the seats, some recognizable from Kriltax's briefings, others completely unfamiliar. Susan, Hayes, and the lead diplomat, Dr. Frank Wilson, stepped onto the central platform while the rest of the delegation remained. At the chamber entrance, an alien with gray stone-like skin and glowing yellow eyes spoke first. I am High Counselor Drav of the Litharians, current chair of the Concord Council. We welcome the representatives of Earth. The formalities continued for several minutes, with various counselors offering greetings. Susan noticed Zephyra seated in a side section, watching intently. Finally, Drav raised a hand for silence. We have reviewed the reports on your species and your world. It is the decision of this council that humanity requires special consideration. Susan felt her heart rate increase. Special consideration, counselor? Yes. Drav's expression was unreadable on his stone face. Your species has been classified as a Category 4 predator species under Concord Security Directive 1173. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Susan glanced at Hayes, who had subtly shifted to a more defensive stance. I don't understand. Dr. A. Wilson said carefully. What does this classification mean? Another counselor stood, a tall insect-like being with compound eyes. It means, human, that your species has been deemed too dangerous for standard integration into the Concord. Your aggressive tendencies, rapid technological advancement, and biological adaptability present an unacceptable risk. The Shivari Protocol has been authorized, Drav announced. It began implementation upon your departure from Earth. Your planet is already experiencing the first phase of controlled technological regression. Susan felt as though the floor had dropped from beneath her feet. You've already activated it? Without even meeting us? The evidence was conclusive, Zephyr said, standing from her seat. Your species weaponized medical technology within months of receiving it. Your military leaders, she looked directly at Hayes, immediately sought ways to adapt our peaceful gifts for war. That's not true, Susan protested. We were exploring all applications, including defense. That's natural for any species. Precisely, Drav said. It is your nature that concerns us. The protocol is humane. Your people will not suffer. They will simply return to a simpler state, unable to threaten galactic stability. Hayes stepped forward. And what about us? The people already here? Drav's yellow eyes seemed to glow brighter. You will remain here as cultural representatives of Earth. You will be treated well, but you will not be permitted to return. Guards S. Colonel Alan Hayes crouched behind a storage container in the Vazarian docking bay. Commander Olivia Martinez knelt beside him, checking the small alien weapon Krilltax had provided. 4 other members of the human delegation had made it this far, 2 security officers and 2 scientists. The rest had been captured at the council chamber. Where's Krilltax? Martinez whispered. He said he would meet us here after creating a diversion, Hayes replied. They had been hiding for nearly an hour, evading Concord security forces. The station's alarms had finally stopped blaring, replaced by announcements in various alien languages. They're looking for us, one of the security officers said. Hayes nodded. We stick to the plan. We need to get back to Earth and warn them. The sound of approaching footsteps silenced them. Hayes gripped his weapon tighter, then relaxed when he saw Krilltax hurrying toward them, accompanied by 3 other Vosarians. The shuttle is prepared, Krilltax said quickly. But we must hurry. Security has begun searching all vessels. What about Dr. Collins and the others? Martinez asked. They have been taken to the detention center in the security sector. We cannot reach them now. Krilltax's skin had turned a deep blue with stress. Our priority must be warning Earth. Hayes didn't like leaving anyone behind, especially Susan, but he knew their mission came first. Lead the way, he said. They moved quickly through the docking bay to a small Vosarian shuttle. The vessel was designed for short-range travel between the station and orbiting ships, not interstellar journeys. Will this thing get us home? Martinez asked as they boarded. One of Krilltax's companions, a Vosarian engineer, replied. It has been modified with an experimental drive. The journey will take approximately 45 days instead of 3 months. If we survive. Another Vosarian added quietly. Krilltax took the pilot's position. We must launch now. Security has begun the docking bay lockdown. The shuttle's engines hummed to life. Hayes watched through a viewing port as the bay doors began to close. We're not going to make it, one of the scientists said. Yes, we will, Krilltax replied, his 4 hands moving rapidly over the controls. The shuttle shot forward, barely squeezing through the narrowing gap. Alarms blared as they cleared the station, Warning shots from defense turrets flashed past them. Activating stealth systems, the Vosarian engineer announced. The shuttle shimmered and seemed to fade slightly as its exterior absorbed light rather than reflecting it. The weapon's fire became less accurate, then stopped altogether. They cannot track us now, Kriltak said. Setting course for Earth. Hayes finally allowed himself to breathe. Thank you, Ambassador. You've risked everything to help us. The Concord has betrayed its founding principles, Kriltak replied. Many Vosarians disagree with the Council's decision regarding humans. We are not alone in our dissent. You mean there are others who might help us? Martinez asked. Yes. Several species have formed a coalition we call the Dissenters. We believe the Concord has become stagnant, fearful of change and innovation. Your species represents exactly what the galaxy needs: adaptability, creativity, resilience. As so, the shuttle accelerated away from the station. Hayes turned his thoughts to Earth. How bad will the protocol's effects be by the time we return? The early stages cause subtle malfunctions in electronic systems, Kriltak explained. Communications networks will degrade first, followed by power distribution systems. The effects would become noticeable within weeks of activation. Then we have no time to lose, Hayes said grimly. Back on Earth, strange things had already begun to happen. Cell phone networks experienced unexplained outages. Power grids fluctuated without apparent cause. Internet connections became unreliable. Dr. Nathan Bradley, who had remained as acting director of the Interspecies Technology Exchange Program, noticed a pattern in the malfunctions. At 55, with decades of experience in systems engineering, he recognized that these were not random failures. The problems are too widespread but too similar, he explained to General Samantha West during an emergency meeting at the Pentagon, and they started exactly 3 days after our delegation departed for the Concord station. General West, a stern woman with gray-streaked black hair, studied the global incident map on the display screen. You're suggesting sabotage? By the Vosarians? Not necessarily by all of them, Bradley replied. Remember what Colonel Hayes reported about Zephyra and the Security Council's concerns? I think this might be the Shivari protocol they were worried about. West frowned. We've lost all communication with the delegation. The Vosarian representatives here claim technical difficulties, but they've been increasingly isolated in their compound. We need to act now, Bradley urged. If this is what Hayes feared, we could lose all advanced technology within months. General West nodded decisively. I'll speak to the President. In the meantime, assemble a team of our best scientists. If this is a technological attack, we need a technological defense. Within days, Bradley had gathered a global coalition of experts. They worked around the clock, examining the failing systems and identifying microscopic machines that shouldn't have been there. Nanobots, Dr. Elena Patel, a nanotechnology expert, confirmed. Incredibly sophisticated. They're reproducing using materials from our own devices. Can we stop them? Bradley asked. Possibly. They appear programmed to target specific frequencies and materials common in our technology. If we can alter those frequencies and develop counter-nanobots. The work was difficult and grew more challenging as communication systems continued to degrade. Scientists in different countries could barely share their findings. Power outages became more common. 40 days into the crisis, as Bradley's team was testing their third prototype of counter-nanobots, an unidentified object entered Earth's atmosphere and landed near the old First Contact facility in Nevada. General West personally led the military response team that surrounded the object, a small shuttle unlike any Vosarian craft they had seen before. When the hatch opened, she raised her weapon, then lowered it in shock. Colonel Hayes, Commander Martinez. Hayes stepped out, followed by Martinez and the others. General West, we don't have much time. You have no idea how right you are, West replied. Come with me. At the Pentagon's underground command center, Hayes and Martinez briefed the assembled military and civilian leaders on what they had learned at the Concord station. Kriltak and his fellow Vosarian dissidents provided technical details about the Shivari protocol. So it's already begun, Hayes said grimly after learning about the technological failures. Yes, but we've made progress, Bradley explained. Dr. Patel has developed counter-nanobots that can identify and neutralize the Shivari machines. The problem is deployment, Patel added. We need to spread them through all affected systems globally, and our communications infrastructure is already compromised. Krilltak stepped forward. We may be able to help with that. Our shuttle contains communication technology that operates on frequencies your systems use, but the Shivari nanobots are not programmed to attack. And there's more, Martinez said. Show them, Krilltax. The Vosarian activated a small device that projected a holographic display. These are schematics for advanced defensive systems, shields, weapons, propulsion, that the Concord has denied to emerging species. My fellow dissenters have provided them freely. General West studied the schematics with widening eyes. With this technology, we can build ships, Hayes finished. Real starships, not just the shuttles they were willing to share. And we can defend ourselves if the Concord decides to take more direct action. Over the next 18 months, humanity fought back against the Shivari Protocol with remarkable determination. Dr. Patel's counter-nanobots, distributed through Krilltax's communication network, gradually neutralized the alien sabotage. Each victory restoring a power grid or communication system was celebrated globally. Meanwhile, a secret project began in facilities around the world. Using the dissenters' schematics combined with human innovation, engineers constructed Earth's first true interstellar warships. The vessels incorporated technology beyond what even the Concorde possessed. Hybrid systems that combined alien science with human ingenuity in ways the Concorde scientists had never considered. As the first ship, named EDF Defiance, prepared for its maiden voyage, Hayes, now Admiral Hayes, stood on the bridge looking at the crew. Humans worked alongside a small number of Vosarian dissenters and representatives from 3 other alien species who had joined their cause. All systems ready, Admiral, Martinez reported from her station as tactical officer. Hayes nodded. Our first mission is clear. We're going back to the Concord station. We're going to rescue our people. And we're going to show the galaxy that humanity will not be pushed back into the dark. On the main screen, Earth grew smaller as the Defiance and its escort ships accelerated away. The mission to save Dr. Collins and the others had begun, but it had become something more. Humanity's declaration that they would not only survive among the stars but thrive there. The Earth Defense Force fleet approached the Concord station with caution. 6 ships in total, the flagship Defiance led by Admiral Hayes, followed by 5 smaller but equally advanced vessels. They had traveled for 2 weeks using the enhanced drive systems developed from the dissenter schematics. No response to our hails, Commander Martinez reported from her tactical station. They've detected us but aren't answering. Admiral Hayes studied the massive wheel-shaped station on the main view screen. Deploy the stealth shuttles. Commander Martinez will lead the rescue team. The plan was precise and had been rehearsed countless times during the journey. While the fleet distracted the Concorde forces, a small team would infiltrate the station to rescue Susan Collins and the other captured delegates who had been prisoners for over 18 months. Martinez led 12 operatives, 8 humans and 4 Vosarian dissenters, in 2 shuttles equipped with advanced stealth technology. As the main fleet engaged the station's outer defenses, the shuttles slipped through a maintenance access port identified by Krilltax's intelligence. Remember, Martinez told her team as they docked, our priority is extracting our people. Avoid conflict when possible, but we are authorized to use necessary force. They moved quickly through the maintenance tunnels, guided by schematics provided by the dissenters. The station was in a state of alert, but most security forces had been deployed to counter the fleet's apparent attack. The detention center should be 2 levels up, one of the Vosarians whispered. They encountered minimal resistance until they reached the security sector. There, 4 large guards blocked the entrance to the detention area. I'll handle this, Martinez said. She stepped forward with 2 of her team, weapons ready. The guards reacted immediately, raising their own weapons. Martinez fired first, not at the guards, but at a control panel on the wall. The panel exploded in sparks and the lights in the corridor went dark. In the confusion, Martinez's team subdued the guards without killing them. "Nice work," one of her human operatives commented, as they bound the unconscious guards. "We're not here to start a war," Martinez replied, "just to finish one." They accessed the detention center controls and located the human prisoners. Susan Collins and 5 other delegates were being held in a high-security section. 3 more were in the medical ward, and 1 had died during captivity. Martinez led half her team to the high-security area, while sending the rest to the medical ward. They breached the security doors using codes from their Vosarian allies. Susan Collins looked up in shock as her cell door opened. Her face was thinner than Martinez remembered, her eyes harder, but she appeared physically unharmed. "Commander Martinez?" Susan asked in disbelief. "How?" "Explanation later, Doctor. We're getting you out of here." As they freed the other prisoners, Susan quickly regained her composure. "We need to access the central database before we leave. I've learned something critical during my time here." "That wasn't part of the mission," Martinez objected. "Trust me," Susan insisted. "It's worth the risk." Martinez hesitated, then nodded. "Lead the way." Meanwhile, in orbit around the station, the Earth fleet engaged the Concorde defense vessels. The Defiance demonstrated capabilities that clearly surprised the Concorde commanders. Its shield technology absorbed energy weapons, while its own weaponry disabled rather than destroyed enemy ships. "They're adjusting their tactics," Hayes' tactical officer reported, "concentrating fire on our shield generators. Rotate shield frequencies as we discussed," Hayes ordered calmly. "Continue evasive pattern Delta." The bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency. Many had trained for months in simulators before, ever setting foot on a real starship. They compensated for each Concorde adaptation with innovations of their own. "Admiral," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the station. It's the High Council requesting a ceasefire to discuss terms." Hayes allowed himself a small smile. "Maintain battle stations, but hold fire. Let's hear what they have to say." The main screen shifted to show High Counselor Drav, his stone face, showing as much emotion as Hayes had ever seen from the alien. "Admiral Hayes," Drav said formally, "your attack is a violation of Concorde law. Your attempted sabotage of our civilization was a violation of basic decency," Hayes replied evenly. "We are here for our people. Return them, and we will withdraw." "Your technology should not be possible," another counselor said from off-screen. "The Shivari Protocol failed," Hayes finished. "Humanity adapted. It's what we do." Inside the station, Susan led Martinez's team to a restricted data center. Using knowledge gained during her captivity, she accessed a secure terminal while the rescue team stood guard. "We have maybe 5 minutes before they override my access," Susan said as she worked. "During my imprisonment, I was questioned extensively about human history and biology. Their questions seemed odd until I realized what they were looking for." "Which was what?" Martinez asked, keeping an eye on the corridor. "Confirmation of an ancient prophecy or legend," Susan replied, downloading data to a portable device. "Something about a species called the Guardians, who would eventually challenge the Concorde's authority." "They think we're these Guardians?" "Some do. It explains their fear of us." Susan finished the download just as alarms began to sound. "Got it. Let's go." They fought their way back to the shuttles, rejoining the team from the medical ward, who had rescued the other delegates. As they prepared to depart, station security forces converged on their position. "We're cut off," one of the operatives reported. Martinez checked her tactical display. "Not for long. Admiral Hayes is about to give us an opening." On the Defiance, Hayes received Martinez's signal. "All ships commence Phase 2. Target external power junctions as planned." The Earth ships fired precision strikes at key points on the station's outer ring. The entire section where Martinez's team was located lost power, plunging it into darkness and disabling security doors. "That's our cue," Martinez told her team. "Move." They escaped to the shuttles and launched, racing away from the station toward the waiting Earth vessels. Pursuit ships followed but were intercepted by the Defiance and its escorts. As the shuttles docked safely, Hayes ordered the fleet to pull back to a defensive position. The conquered ships formed a perimeter around the station but didn't pursue. In the Defiance's medical bay, Hayes finally reunited with Susan Collins. Despite her ordeal, she immediately shared what she had discovered. "The data confirms it," she explained, displaying ancient Concord records on a screen. Thousands of years ago, the founders of the Concord encountered a race they called the Guardians. These beings challenged the early Concord to grow beyond fear, to embrace diversity and innovation rather than control and stagnation. "What happened to them?" Hayes asked. "They disappeared but left a prediction that another species would eventually emerge with similar traits: adaptability, creativity, a balance of cooperation and individualism." Susan looked at Hayes intently. Many in the Concord believe that species is humanity. Martinez had joined them, along with Krilltax and representatives from 3 other dissenter species. "This explains the Security Council's fear," Krilltax said, "not just of humans but of change itself." "And now?" Hayes asked. Before anyone could answer, the communications officer called over the intercom. "Admiral, we're receiving transmissions from multiple sectors of the station. It seems there's some kind of uprising in progress." They rushed to the bridge where the main screen showed chaos on the station. Many Concord species were openly challenging the Security Council's authority, inspired by humanity's show of both strength and restraint. "They expected us to destroy them if we had the power," Susan realized. "But we only disabled their ships, only took back what was ours." "The Council is requesting to speak with you again, Admiral," the communications officer reported. Hayes straightened his uniform. On screen, High Counselor Drav appeared, but this time he was flanked by representatives from several species, including some Hayes didn't recognize. "Admiral Hayes," Drav said, his voice more subdued than before. "Recent events have prompted reconsideration. Within the Concord, we request a formal diplomatic meeting." "To what end, Counselor?" Hayes asked cautiously. "To discuss the formation of a new interstellar alliance," one of the other aliens said, stepping forward. "One based on mutual respect rather than fear and control." 6 months later, Susan Collins stood on the observation deck of the EDF Hope, Earth's first colony ship. Beside her, Admiral Hayes watched as the massive vessel approached a distant planet where another young species was just beginning to develop space travel. "The Concord observers detected their first radio signals last year," Susan explained. "Under the old system, they would have been evaluated for potential threat level before any contact." "And now?" Hayes asked. "Now they'll be welcomed and guided, not judged and potentially sabotaged." She smiled. "The reformed Concord has asked Earth to lead the first contact team." Krilltax joined them at the viewport. His position as lead ambassador of the new alliance between Earth and the former dissenter species had made him a respected figure throughout the reformed galactic community. "They're calling us the Guardians of Sol now," Hayes commented. "In the new Concord chambers, I heard several species use the term." Susan watched the distant planet grow larger.